And welcome to the Technology Geek podcast. I am your host, Brandon Lapani, the Technology Geek, and this is our 31st podcast. And I want to thank everybody for listening, as always. And obviously, you can find out about all of our posts and all of our old podcasts on the technologygeek.org, and as well as you can follow me on my Twitter at LapaniTech, and all of our other wonderful information that we have up at the Technology Geek, our social media, obviously Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, all that. So a lot of stuff going on in tech as always, but this week just seemed to be an extraordinarily busy week this week. But before we do anything else, I guess I will go ahead and let's talk about our wonderful sponsors that we have on our show. Obviously, we have Audible. They're a wonderful streaming service for books. I personally like them. I like using them when I'm driving. You can listen to audiobooks. You can, while you're working out, while you're exercising, doing any of that stuff, cleaning the house, doing anything, you can listen to books. And, sometimes, you have a couple books you want to actually, read, but you never seem to get around to it. With Audible, obviously, you can go ahead and, do it, while you're doing other things. It really is a wonderful, wonderful service. And you get one book a month for $14.99, or I believe you get two for $24.99. But with our promotional offer, you will go ahead and get one free book. And that's audibletrial.com/techgeek. And as well as our other wonderful sponsor, we have ProXPN. ProXPN, again, a wonderful sponsor. We're very lucky to have them. But when you're talking about going to places like Starbucks and other places that offer free wireless, you really, really should use a VPN. If you're going to be doing any personal information, any banking, anything like that, you should definitely be using a VPN to keep yourself safe and keep your information secure. Even if you're using your cell phone or a laptop, anything, you should always use a VPN. Especially even if you're going to use your data service on your cell phone, you should definitely use a VPN because that's basically just the internet out there. So I would recommend, again, it's ProXPN, and you get a free trial with our coupon code TechGeek, TECGEK, and that's ProXPN. And really, they are a really wonderful service. I use ProXPN myself, and I use Audible myself, folks. All these sponsors that I pick them because I actually personally use them and think they are good services, and then I reach out for them for the actual sponsorship. So they really are wonderful. And as well as allamericancomputerrepair.com, All American Computer offering web hosting, web design, SEO services, all those wonderful internet services. And if you have a business, you definitely should have a website and definitely should have it optimized. So again, you can go to allamericancomputerrepair.com, and they're really a wonderful service. Lucky to have them as a sponsor as well. And of all the way, folks, you can go to our website, technologygeek.org, click on our sponsors link, and all of our sponsors are there. We have Ring Central, HostGator, a lot of really wonderful offers that if you guys would use, we would get the credit for it. And we really do appreciate it. And they are really good services that we have actually tested and actually use. As well as on our site, you can also find our donations link. Any donations you guys can give, obviously, we keep the servers up and running and pay for bandwidth and all those expenses that come with giving away free content. So we appreciate that. We do get quite a few donations and quite a few people using the sponsors. So we do really appreciate that. It helps keep keep the podcast and the website up and running. So a lot of tech news this week. We'll go ahead and get into the tech news here shortly. But speaking of Audible and books and stuff like that, I just finished the book by Cliff Stool, the Cuckoo's Egg. For those of you that don't know what that is, it actually is it was a book that Cliff wrote. Actually, what he did was he was an astronomer turned technology geek type of guy. I guess he lost his job as an astronomer, and I guess they moved him over to kind of the computer science division. And I guess there was like a 76 cents difference or something in accounting, and they had him look into it and so forth. They had a hacker in their system, and he was tracking this guy for almost a year through their network and things of that nature. And, because of the newness, this is, I think, back in 85, 84, and due to the newness of the crime, they weren't, FBI and the CIA, all that wasn't really equipped to handle it. And it actually shows you his struggles of actually going through and actually trying to chase him. And there weren't really good tools at the time. He had to use printers and things like that to actually print out logs because, I mean, you're talking, Unix and really, really back in the early days of computing. And, talking about modem banks and tracing calls and all the real struggles that he had when he was actually, doing this and trying to chase this guy down. The person actually ended up being Marcus Hess. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was actually selling secrets and government secrets to the Soviets and things of that nature during the during the whole Berlin Wall incident and all that. So a lot of interesting information, but he actually traced this guy for almost a year using paper logs and, keeping a logbook and all that. And then I believe he as well had to actually testify at Marques's trial, and really was an amazing book, really gets really deep into the techie stuff and all that. And after he did this, he tried to turn back to being an doing astronomy, and it just didn't work out for him. So many people wanted him to work security for them after that. So he ended up being more of a security guy than he was an astronomy, doing astronomy after that. But chased this guy for a year. Had to have write programs to beep his beeper when somebody was coming in, because he didn't have systems yet like you do nowadays for to notify you when you're having security breaches. He actually struggled a little bit as well, having to sleep overnight under his desk and stuff to watch the logs to see what the hacker was doing, because remoting in wasn't exactly really down pat yet and stuff. Plus, he didn't want to set the hacker off, and all stuff about how he had to get when they started when he finally got the FBI on board and trying to trace the guy. He actually had to go ahead and create fake documents just to keep the guy there long enough, because back then not all the phone systems yet were digital. So he had to go ahead and have the guy stay on for 1 or 2 hours. This way, manually they can go trace lines and all that. So, really amazing book. It talks about a lot of old tech. And if you're like me, if you're a techie, you want to hear about the stuff that happened. Old tech stuff. It really is a wonderful book. And like I said, it really did happen. It really is a true story, and it definitely is something worth reading. You can probably pick it up on Amazon for a few cents. Not a very expensive book, but it definitely was worth the read, and I strongly recommend anybody that wants to read a good security book that really happened, I would strongly recommend go ahead and buying the book, because it really was a tech book. A lot of techie stuff in it. I don't know if you have to be a real techie to really understand it, because he does simplify it quite a bit, but he does talk about some of the they do show snippets of code and things of that nature in the book, and it really makes it a lot of fun when you're actually, reading the code. And if you're like me, Linux really well, actually getting to see what they were actually doing and how they were doing it and what kind of code he was writing and things of that nature. And then, talking about, obviously, his company, talking about shared computing, which was kind of neat, back then. If the science labs, they actually had to, they actually rented, computer time and all that, and talking about how their billing system worked, how they charged everybody for every minute of processor time they used. A lot of really interesting things in the book that, like I said, if you're into technology, it definitely is worth the read. It's not a long book at all, probably maybe 350, 400 pages with the prologue and all that stuff. So it really is neat. I also found out, too, reading the book as well, that Cliff Stool, actually a ham radio operator, and his skills of knowing how to solder and kind of tinker around with radio and tinker around with things of that nature helped him out a lot in tracing the hacker through the system. So, like I said, it really, really is worth the read if you have the time. And like I said, it's not a long one at all. So you can go ahead and you could probably fit it in, over a week's worth of, just an hour at night, fitting it in. It actually is really worth it. Or if you have Audible, I'm sure it's available in audio form. It's been out for such a long time now, so I'm sure you can grab it in audio format if you'd like as well on the internet. But like I said, definitely is a really, it really was great. And I love books that I get really excited about reading. And it was really an exciting one. A lot of techie stuff in there. Lot of, it really... I know there's not many books I get excited about, but that was one I got really excited about, and definitely was worth the read. So if you have the time, pick it up. It definitely is worth reading it. So some other news. So we'll get. I just want to say it's kind of news, but I guess there's a lot of information on it. As we all know, Facebook buying the WhatsApp. Paid $16 billion for it. It's definitely a huge acquisition for them. If you remember when Mark Zuckerberg bought Instagram, he invited the CEO of Instagram over to his house for a pool party, and on a Sunday afternoon, and by Sunday night they had hashed out that Facebook was going to buy them and all that. No information yet on actually how the purchase was done just yet, but definitely the news this week that Facebook buys the WhatsApp. Yes, Facebook's been doing a lot of acquisitioning, really trying to build their platform out. Obviously, Facebook really integrating with a lot of websites. Now you can log in with the Facebook account. There's a lot of places now that on the e-commerce platform they actually go ahead and allow you to actually log in with Facebook. And you understand too. Facebook is in business. They do collect data. If you're shopping using your Facebook account, they're probably watching what you're buying. I know myself, I use Goodreads.com. I log in at my Facebook account, and every time I add a book to my reading list, it always shows up on my Facebook account. So, Facebook's in the business of collecting data, which there's nothing really wrong with that as long as there's no information that you are worried about. I know there was a big problem, with Facebook. A lot of people were outraged. Obviously, there was a big update with Android a few weeks ago, and it actually told you when you accepted the app update that Facebook was actually going to be looking at your text messages. And I know people were pretty outraged about that. Facebook hasn't changed it, but I know people were quite outraged about that particular piece. But again, it's one of those things where you're choosing to use their service. That's their terms, and that's it. But I know Facebook has made updates to their privacy and things of that nature. I know some people on the Android app they actually use Viber and they were using the WhatsApp and things of that nature just so Facebook wouldn't read their text messages. So I thought that was kind of a neat trade-off where, okay, you want to look at you want to look at my text messages, I'll just text my friends a different way. I thought that was kind of a neat trade-off that a lot of people did. But again, it's one of those things where you're accepting their terms, you're accepting their service, and it really all depends too on what you're getting text. If you're using a company phone, with confidential information, you probably shouldn't have the Facebook app on there. You shouldn't be checking your personal Facebook and stuff on that. And that's an issue that I think a lot of companies are really dealing with security right now. People have, company smartphones, and they're there, putting Facebook, putting Twitter on them so that they can check their Facebook or check their Twitter account, while they're on their phones. And there's nothing really wrong with that, as long as the company allows it. But it is kind of a security problem, especially if you're getting confidential texts and things of that nature. Now, on the other hand of that, some people have these, have Facebook, have Twitter and all that because their companies require them to do that. My friend's in marketing, and one of his jobs in the marketing department is to run the company's Facebook and to run the company Twitter, run the company LinkedIn. Well, he's on the go a lot. He's in marketing. A lot of those guys are on the road a lot, and he has no choice but to have Facebook or Twitter on his phone. And and yes, is it good? Yeah, he can do his job much easier. But there's also the security trade-off to that. Facebook seeing, what text messages he's getting now. Facebook seeing, what apps he's linked with on his phone, because Facebook does watch certain LinkedIn apps and stuff. So, there's a big trade-off to that. You really have to make a decision. Are you worried about security or are you worried about work production? And it's a big question. In our society is, what's more important, security or, productivity? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's really your company's discretion. So, but more back on the WhatsApp, obviously, the WhatsApp founder, obviously staying very, very low key. Obviously, he's a very wealthy man now, $16 billion. I'm sure he doesn't have to, I'm sure he'll do something else. What's interesting is I find with a lot of these companies that the founders, sell their product off and, they're billionaires, they end up going in to do other things too. That always is kind of funny when you actually look at it, like, these guys, he's got $16 billion in the bank. He can go, he doesn't have to work another day in his life if he didn't want to, but he will. He'll start another startup and probably, do a bunch of things. All these guys do. And good for them. There's nothing wrong with that. But he's keeping it low key right now, which I would too if I was him. You just made quite a bit of cash, so you want to you might want to keep yourself low key. Maybe you want to go on vacation now. You don't have the restriction of having to be there to run a business. So, but apparently Facebook. Going to continue to operate the app independently for right now anyway. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to work some integration and stuff into it. The purchase, obviously, Facebook stock took a big hit, fell 5% after the hours of following the purchase, and then by the time the day closed out, it was only down 2.64%. So, it wasn't down a lot, but it did go down a little bit, surprisingly enough, over the whole situation with the purchase. Not exactly sure why. Normally acquisitions and purchases like that usually, help the stock, but apparently it didn't in this case. But not a big deal. Facebook's, acquisition obviously was contextualized, meaning that some of it will be cash, some of it will be Facebook stock, as we all remember a while back. Obviously, Mark Zuckerberg was liquidating some stock. That probably was why, because they needed some stock to sell. To sell to the WhatsApp. So, very, very common. A lot of these companies do that. They do that type of stuff. They'll sell you. They'll give you some cash and then some stock, things of that nature. One of the things that was interesting when they were talking about how much they paid for the WhatsApp, it's 4 times the market cap of BlackBerry. It's approximately 1/3 the market cap of Ford. It's 7.5% of certain people. They had 62% of Twitter's market cap. TechCrunch had a whole big thing of how they really overpaid for it. But again, it's one of those types of things. Sometimes you do overpay for things, but in the long run, you'll make the money back tenfold. That's just the way business works sometimes. Right now, Facebook, no plans of bringing ads to the WhatsApp yet, but I'm sure as time goes on, they'll find a way to, capitalize on it and make money. You remember when they first bought Instagram, they didn't put any ads on it or anything like that, and now there's going to be, obviously, ads, in Instagram now, which, you can't blame Facebook. They spent a big chunk of change for that, and, they really have to, they do have to make a profit with it. But for right now, like I said, they're chugging along with it. They're going to keep it going until they figure out how to really integrate it and all that. You remember when Microsoft bought Skype? For the longest time, they didn't do anything with it. I think it had to be at least a good year to 2 years. They didn't do anything with it. But in the long run, obviously, they ended up integrating it with Windows 8 and a lot of their other platforms and things of that nature. And they ended up, integrating it with a lot of other products, using it with a lot of other companies. So, it takes time to really get these things down and really get them moving. But obviously, that was big news. That hit the internet pretty hard. I actually heard about it not from the internet. I was actually scrolling through Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg, who actually doesn't talk on his Facebook account all that much, or not publicly anyway, on his Facebook account, made the announcement that they had bought it, and I just happened to actually scroll through and see it. So, good for them. Other news as well, obviously the House of Cards, obviously not this past Friday, the Friday before, Valentine's Day, it actually debuted, getting rave reviews and all that, so good for them. House of Cards it really is a wonderful show. I like it. I think I'm on episode 11, I think I'm on episode 11 now, but it really is a wonderful show, getting rave reviews. Netflix actually ordered season 3 of it. Really is a really wonderful show. A lot of people don't know this, but it actually is I don't want to say a remake, because that's not the proper word. What happened is the original series that was over in Britain was actually about somebody who was in a member of Parliament, and they were actually going to go ahead and they were trying to, boost their political foothold, and obviously they adapted it to the American version, obviously making somebody who was a member of Congress trying to be president and vice president and all that stuff. So Kevin Spacey really does a wonderful job with it. It's his production company that actually did it, and from what I heard, they were actually supposed to be selling it to a big network, and it ended up that Netflix called up and said, hey, we want you. And it is the first series to ever win a nomination and actually win an award. So good for them. Kevin Spacey definitely going to have his spot in history because of that. But like I said, it really is a wonderful series. If you like political dramas, if you like shows like The West Wing and things of that nature, it definitely is worth your time. And I remember when Facebook did announce what they spent on House of Cards, the interesting thing was they said after they had purchased it, purchased the rights to use it, within the first week of the show being released, which Netflix releases all the shows at once. They don't release one a week like HBO and things of that nature does. They release them all at once. But what was really interesting about that was they said within the first week from all the new subscribers they got, they actually made their money back and then some. So that was a really cool idea. And they've capitalized on it as well, obviously, with House of Hemlock Grove, and well as Orange is the New Black, Arrested Development. Arrested Development was actually canceled, and Netflix actually went ahead and actually got in touch with the actors and said, let's do another whole season. So definitely, Netflix making definitely making a big splash, especially with House of Cards. So some other geek news that was kind of neat, and since we were talking about House of Cards, that's why I actually brought this up. Fantastic Four, it was actually announced that the Fantastic Four, who the new cast was going to be, and the cast member that is actually in there is actually going to be, as you know, Kate Mira, who obviously was in American Horror Story, as most of you remember, the first season, but she was also Zoe in House of Cards. So that's one of the reasons why I brought that up. So she's going to be, she's going to be playing, I would imagine, Mr. Fantastic's wife, the Invisible Woman, in the new series. Obviously, we don't know yet. They haven't really announced that, but I'm going to imagine that's who she's going to play. The Jessica Alba's the blonde bombshell, and now looks like she's going to be the blonde bombshell in the new Fantastic Four reboot. So good for her. Her acting career really taking off. Obviously, starting out with a lot of smaller productions and now moving up to obviously big shows like American Horror Story, House of Cards, and now big feature films. As well, she was also in Shooter with Mark Wahlberg a few years ago. So Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously talking about Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, obviously out now. Mixed feelings about it. Don't really know how I feel about it. To me, I think it doesn't really have a serious angle. It's more of a, kind of seems like more of, like they really made a lot of big of it. Kind of seems like they made more of a comedy or a joke out of it. Not really impressed with the trailer. We'll have to see how it goes. Sometimes trailers can be deceiving, like I talked to you about many times. Pacific Rim obviously had probably, in my opinion, one of the worst trailers I've ever seen, and it might be one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. So, it's one of those types of things. Sometimes movies don't live up to the hype. I hate to say it, but Thor 2, in my opinion, really didn't live up to the hype. I thought it would have been, judging from the trailer, it looked like it had so much potential. And in my opinion, the last maybe 10 minutes of the movie was the only thing that really kept me on the edge of my seat. So, but again, it really all depends on your thoughts and your, how you perceive a movie. Everybody can perceive a movie differently. So, so I thought some other interesting. So now going on to the tech news, some interesting thing. Reddit actually helped find a GoPro that washed up on shore. It was pretty funny. Somebody actually found a GoPro on shore, took the SD card out, plugged it into their computer, and found pictures of cats. So they posted them up on Reddit. And the owner of the cat actually found the GoPro. Actually found the pictures and said, "Hey, that's my cat," and actually was able to connect with the person, actually get his photos back and things of that nature. So, kind of a neat thing there. How social media and websites really helping people connect, and of all things, ironically, connecting on somebody's cat. So, good for them. Some other things as well. Google Capital lands $300 million leads in web education. This was kind of a lot of startups. We talked about this last week. The Gates and Melinda Foundation as well, pushing a lot of people, really pushing hard into in educational technology and really trying to capitalize on that market, because obviously everything is becoming computerized nowadays. But their new investment is $300 in their fresh capital to put to work this year, starting deal making with web education. So a lot of news there. I'm not going to get into all of it, but looks like Google's going to try to really invest money in that. I know they are. Last year Google, they placed $125 million in Leading Club Corp, online peer-to-peer loan service in San Francisco. Trying to help kids get student loans and things of that nature. So, 2011 they invested as well in another company. So, obviously Google, making a strong investment in education in some form, shape, some way, shape, or form. So, that was news as well. Google, speaking of Google Translate obviously can now sing to you in Japanese. That was on Mashable. I thought that was kind of neat. You can check that article out. It was kind of cool. Google, some other news as well. Google Fiber looks like it's going to come to 34 new cities. That was in the news. That was actually in the New York Times. So, Google Fiber really trying to expand out. Now, Google Fiber, I'm not saying Google Fiber is a bad thing or any at all, but the only thing you have to realize is if you're worried about Google tracking you and you're using Google Fiber, the odds are the ISP can see everything you do because they see all your traffic. So if you're worried about people spying on you, Google Fiber, I'm sure they're definitely keeping an eye on you because that's just, they're able to do that with the fiber optics. They're able to collect data, watch what you're doing and all that. And it's nothing, it's nothing to be, if you're not doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. But, they can watch you and all that. But look, obviously, they started out in 3 cities, Kansas, Austin, and Utah. On Wednesday, Google announced that it's invited 34 cities across 9 metropolitan areas to work with in order to determine whether and how to hook them up with fiber. Those cities, obviously, are Atlanta, San Jones, Charlotte, and Portland, among a few that they announced. There's actually a whole list, by the way, of ones they want to do this year. Obviously, they have 3: Salt Lake City, Phoenix, San Antonio, Nashville, places like that. That's the places that they want to. They're looking at potentially. They have a whole map on their website. You can look it up if you want. It's got all of them on there. But Google obviously looking to expand to those cities. And like I said, Google Fiber, it's really fast. It's not. It's not cheap. It's definitely not cheap. And one of the things that was kind of interesting, and if you really, really want to get Google Fiber, they actually do have a site where you can actually go up, pay $10, and tell them, hey, I would like fiber in my area. There actually is a website where you can actually go ahead and do that. So if that's something you're interested in, spend the $10, give your address, and tell them you want fiber in your area. And that's, I think, part of the reason how they're determining these areas too is the interest. They're not going to put fiber in a place where nobody's interested. They probably got a lot of requests from those areas, from people saying, hey, we want this. So if you're looking at their, you're looking at big places like Palo Alto and places like that where you have a lot of tech companies. Google's not even in those areas yet, so they're really focusing on rural areas where you have users, customers, because they're aiming towards the consumer market with this, and people that obviously have a lot of interest. So, but like I said, if you're interested, go ahead and go on that website and pay $10, and you can get it in your area. I know I did. So Microsoft officially rebranded SkyDrive to OneDrive this week. That was in the news as well. Obviously, a lot going on with that. I'm sure Microsoft's releasing a ton of updates to rebrand things. Now their slogan, one place for everything in your life. Microsoft officially flipping, the switch to move everybody over. But it's just a name change. Obviously, no services changing or anything like that. It's just a change. It's just a changing of a name. The camera uploads the. Instead of uploading it to SkyDrive, I just upload it to OneDrive. Nothing really crazy there. All updates. The first automatic updates will be pushed out. Obviously, anything from the iOS, Windows Phone, Android that say SkyDrive and not say OneDrive. So nothing really crazy. Obviously, the rebranding of Office 365, stuff of that nature. Nothing really crazy. Nothing you really have to worry about. It'll all be behind the scenes. Nothing you really have to do as a user. But Microsoft obviously having to use that because they don't own the name. So Microsoft replacing Office web apps with Office Online. That was news this week as well. So the news with that is it rebranded its Office web apps. Basically, an online version of the Office suite. Now it's just Office Online. Nothing really. Again, the Microsoft just trying to make, use less confusing names. That's what Microsoft's trying to say. That's why they're rebranding a lot of stuff. New site really simply to find out, there's not really any new tools according to the article. And really they decided to do this because they're rebranding SkyDrive to OneDrive. So trying to make everything just easier for everybody. So there's no app changes at all from the site. I just logged into it right now. So no changes really at all. The calendar might have one or two changes, but that's probably minimal. Apple bringing iTunes Festival this year. That was actually news as well. I remember years ago, Steve Wozniak and Jobs actually went ahead and actually had their own festival years ago, music festival years ago. Well, apparently they're trying to what's old is new again. Apple trying to bring the iTunes Festival stateside for the first time at SXSW in 2014. So looking here, I'm not sure if they released any names yet of who's going to be there, but apparently they're trying to bring that stateside. Apparently they did. They did release the name Smiley. The lineup will include Coldplay, Pitbull, Keith Urban, Zed, Imagine Dragons. So that was other names yet to be announced, but those are the few that were announced yet. Like the annual, iTunes Festival in London, the event, performances will be made available free on both the iOS app and Apple TV. And like they're trying to really, this year's going to be on demand on live stream as well. It's held every year in September since 2007. Over 400 artists, 430,000 fans, obviously, but it's never actually been stateside. So they're really trying hard to push it. They're really trying hard this year to make it stateside. So we'll see how. We'll see how that goes this year. It really is a good festival from what I've heard. I've never actually been to it, but I have heard it actually is really, really good. So Yahoo, speaking of changing things, Yahoo really trying to they had a little bit of a release this week talking about how they're trying to put mobile first now. They said they're going to try to blur the lines between its native and mobile search advertising. That was actually news. They announced that on Wednesday at the Yahoo conference, a new platform that combines mobile search and native advertising into a single marketplace. With Yahoo, advertising gets performance and ease of search combined with scales and creativity. Yahoo wrote that that was actually in a Tumblr post, but I know they did announce it at a conference as well. I'm positive of that. But this particular article points out their Tumblr post about it. But apparently they're trying to change things the way it is. Likely won't have, they're saying likely won't have much impact on the user experience, but it's the company's first advertising-related move since the launch of Yahoo Advertising, which aims to stream the purchase of ads across Yahoo's various properties. So a little bit different thing here. Yahoo obviously trying to change. Ever since, obviously, their new CEO took over, things have been doing very well for them. Stocks are up. Everything's doing much better. And good for her. They really did need a good shakeup. That company's been poorly ran probably for the last maybe 5-6 years. So good for her, and definitely a great move by Yahoo putting her as CEO. Whoever made that decision made a phenomenal decision. I remember that company I remember doing podcasts, not this particular podcast, I was doing podcasts with a friend of mine, and I remember they were talking the worst ran company in tech in like 2005, 2006 was Yahoo. So good for them. So Facebook paper, the headline here is catching on fire. It's not catching on. It's not catching on fire, but it won't fold anytime soon. Apparently, paper fell out of the top 100 free apps in the App Store this week, less than a month after it launched. The iPhone app dipped to as low as 110 in the U.S. App Store ranking on Tuesday, according to data from the app analytics service App Annie. As the publication, it had climbed back somewhere to 91, just behind a third-party app called, I can't even say the name, which is intended as an unofficial companion to Facebook-owned Instagram. So apparently Facebook launched Paper, a social news reader, on February 3rd and received tremendous amount of press coverage, not to mention getting promoted by Apple, and now apparently it has fallen out of the top 100 apps. So, source related to Facebook thinking told us that that the decline in ratings was expected given all the initial hype. But again, we'll see how this goes. In my opinion, Facebook Paper really is a cool idea, but the only problem with that is it directly competes with the Facebook app itself. So not exactly sure what Facebook really their plan is with this. So we'll keep you in the loop with that. So some other news as well. Apple patents activity tracer in headphones. Not exactly sure yet. I'm sure Apple's working on something new, but obviously we won't know for a while yet. But they did push a patent through on that. Google published a lot of do's and don'ts for their Google Glasses. Kind of a neat thing that came out this week. Thought was kind of cool. Telling people what they should and should not do, with their glasses. So it's kind of interesting. They don't want people to be a glass hole, as they called it. So that was released in the news. There's actually docs up there you can read things you should and shouldn't do with your particular glasses. Bing launching 3 new Windows 8 apps. That was in the news this week as well. So, I don't know. I think the Windows Phone really picking up. I don't know if they're really picking up speed, but they're definitely picking up a lot of press. Let's put it that way. Launched 3 new Windows 8 apps Tuesday: Bing Food and Drink, Bing Health, and Bing Fitness, and as well as Bing Travel. So 3 new apps that are out right now. So a lot of interesting news. Obviously, as we all know, the news a couple weeks ago, obviously Bing going to use Foursquare as their official location services. Some other news as well, 2 Ubuntu phones coming in 2014, aiming for top 50 iOS app and Android apps. So apparently this was on Slashdot. Apparently Ubuntu really pushing hard to get these phones out. And apparently they're going to be having apps that are actually going to be on the App Store as well. Not exactly sure, by the time the device ships, the hope is to have ports of top 50 Android and iOS apps available on Ubuntu, because obviously, as you know, folks, they're not going to be creating apps. They're just going to be porting over Android and iOS apps to their particular system, which I think is a very good idea, by the way. It's something that Microsoft really should have done, but they didn't. But like I said as well, they're working on that. So, but Ubuntu really pushing very hard to get this out as soon as they can. So, but they're working on it. It takes time. So, ask the Linux Foundation executive director Jim Kelmy was on Slashdot this week answering questions. He answered a lot of questions regarding the Linux Foundation and things that were going on. But he said a survey said that the demand from Linux professionals was up 70% from last year. So if you're a Linux guy, you should be having no problem getting work. A lot of people going over to Linux to try to save some money, and as well as a lot more things are supporting Linux nowadays. The open source community obviously getting stronger and stronger every year. NVIDIA launching the GTX 750 architecture. That was in the news this week. I'm not going to go really too much into that, but that was in the news. The second largest Linux distro, Red Flag Software, has shut down. They were out of, I believe, China. They shut down this week. They really worked closely with Red Hat, but they used to distribute, a lot of Red Hat stuff. But apparently they actually are out of it now. But from what I can tell, looks like Red Flag was touted as an alternative for Windows. Like they said, they were distributing deals, partners such as Oracle and Dell with products that were certified to support their products. It doesn't look like, they're saying they went down because of lack of brand awareness for Linux, Red Hat, and SUSE. But I don't know if I totally agree with that. But apparently, they said they were having trouble getting in. They enjoyed their adoption really at the government level and the schools and things of that nature. But, the company went bankrupt. I don't know. There's really I have mixed feelings about that. So, sometimes companies don't go bankrupt because they can't sell their product. They go bankrupt because of mismanagement. Not a lot of information yet on that, but, we'll see how that how that goes, over the next. I'm sure we'll hear more about that story as time progresses. Edward Snowden, a lawyer, claims harassment. That was in the news this week. As you know, apparently, he had help from 3 other insiders with getting the information. We posted up on the website, obviously, as you know, and there was news released that, the government was watching readers of WikiLeaks, things of that nature. A lot of real whistleblower type of stuff. It's one of those types of things that, Snowden and a lot of other people really in our press. Obviously, Julian's still in that embassy. So I think it's going on 500 some days now. So, but again, nothing, we posted about it, it was news. And, obviously, as government keeping an eye on people that are reading WikiLeaks, which you can't blame them. A lot of stuff that was posted, very confidential information, and they really want to know, who's looking at it. And you can't blame them. So, but like I said, that was news this week. Facebook analyzes the impact of love on their business. They were talking about how many people, they were analyzing, I guess, the other day, how many people actually meet each other, how many people start dating, and all that stuff on their site. And I guess now they're trying to, they were saying there are rumors, which I don't know how true it is, but they're saying that Facebook might be looking to get into the helping people meet each other, do a site kind of like eHarmony and things like that. But that's all rumor. But they're trying to really understand, Facebook's really trying to understand your romantic prospects and, trying to understand your buddy relationships and things of that nature. They were doing research on it. Nothing, nothing really yet, but I'm sure they're using information for something or they wouldn't be wasting their time doing it. Google obviously acquires Syrian security startup Slick Login. A lot of people saying that Google's acquiring this because they're going to be using this for the Android phone. I wouldn't be shocked if they did, to tell you the honest truth. It really is a cool technology. It actually lets you, securely log in. What this does is there's a strong password guarantee, and what it does is it's developed as a technology that enables you to log into an online account using ultrasonic sound instead of entering a password and your username. So it is pretty cool. The company offers military-grade security, replaces passwords, two-step authentication. So we'll see how it goes. It actually is a really cool technology. It'd be interesting to see what Google actually does with it, if they do anything at all with it. Apparently, Adult Magazine was sued for hosting pirated content. They were sued actually $188 million in damages. They said they didn't know, but if that was the news. That actually was on the news this week. Actually, on the mainstream news, Perfect 10 was the name of the magazine that was sued. Confirmed, Samsung is confirming that the Galaxy S5 will have a fingerprint scanner. That was in the news this week as well. So, free online game. There's a free online game website. It's offering actually $13,000 reward to expose who actually did a DDoS attack on the site. Thought that was pretty neat. I'm just trying to find who did it. The online game company Worm, WURM. Like I said, actually trying to find out who DDoSed them. Tinder online dating app actually has a vulnerability release. It actually shows you where the people are that you're trying to date, their exact location via their phones. So I'm sure that's going to be that's going to be patched quite soon. Obviously, that's a nightmare right there. Definitely, the creepers could definitely find you. So obviously, that's going to be something that's going to be patched. Google forces handset manufacturers to ship with the latest version of Android. That was in the news. That's actually a really good move, making sure people have the latest version with all the updates and all that, so that Google doesn't have to worry about patching brand new devices that people just got. I think that's a really good idea. So Google and Apple App Store removing all the games with the word Flappy in it. That was in the news this week. Linksys malware, obviously the moon spreading from router to router, still a problem. People still aren't patching their routers. I really recommend you do that if you don't want to be a victim of this. So, crowdfunding site Kickstart hacked. So, if you actually have your if you actually have a Kickstarter account, which I know a lot of people do, actually is a really cool site and really great service to get startup capital for stuff you're doing. But if you do have a account on there, I really recommend you change your password. The Kickstarter CEO went ahead and told them about the breach, but users' personal information has been compromised, and they also haven't found either evidence of unauthorized activities on the accounts. But they're recommending everybody to go ahead and change their password, because obviously the password file was stolen, so they could attempt to crack the encrypted password. So go ahead, just change your account if you're somebody. I know I have one. I changed mine already. It really is a cool place to actually go ahead and really get some upstart capital for little projects you're working on. Hacker somehow got into Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook account and removed his banner at the top. That was news this week. Not the first time this has happened, obviously, but that was in the news this week. And like I did say, it's his cover photo got removed. Suddenly, a few hours later, I guess somebody noticed it and they fixed it and all that. But they're not providing the technical details of how it was done yet, but it was done. So apparently there's an update on the story, though. A few hours after exposed, it was restored. Facebook Pover said there is no merit to this claim. We have confirmed that it was not suspicious activity, but it was reported that it was. But what are you going to do? So 300,000 Android devices infected with premium SMS sending malware. If you do have an Android device, I strongly recommend you check for this. There is a tool to check for it out there on the Play Store. Like I said, it basically the company Panda Labs has identified malicious Android app on the Google Play Store that can sign up users for premium SMS subscriptions service without their permission, so that it can infect 300,000. So far, it's infected 300,000 Android apps. Although the number of malicious downloads have reached 4 times the highest. But the 4 apps found free in the App Store that come packaged with premium SMS. Easy. There's 3 or 4 names. And looks like they're actually really. Looks like apparently it's really. This is actually really spreading pretty good. But guess that the scams could have made somewhere between 6 to 24 million. So if you have, just keep an eye on your phone. Make sure there's no suspicious charges. Tesco customers account details released. Again, change your password if you are somebody that uses their service. But like I said, a list of over 2,240 accounts were online released on Pastebin. That was actually made public by The Guardian. So if you have a password, go ahead, change it on there. Flappy Bird's app clone sends text message to premium numbers. That was obviously another security problem. Internet Explorer 0-day exploit, CV 2014-0322. Obviously targeting U.S. military intelligence. There's going to be a patch out. Obviously, there's a patch out for that. And surveillance and pressure against WikiLeaks and its readers. Obviously, we talked about that earlier, that they were actually going ahead and reading they're actually watching who's on WikiLeaks and what articles they're reading. So for those of you that are, out there and, like I said, if you're reading the site, realize you're being watched. Some of the stuff that's up there, it is confidential information. It is people's secrets, government secrets, and all that. So just realize what you're reading, and realize that you are being watched, whatever you're reading. I don't really read WikiLeaks myself personally. I did watch the movie on WikiLeaks, and I think that. The site is what it is, and if you are somebody that wants to read that stuff, go ahead and read it, but just realize what you're reading. So obviously, folks, we always take your calls and your questions, as we always do every week. Obviously, folks, if you have any questions that you need answered, obviously you can email us the question, or you can call us on our number 570-630-0744. Again, the number 570-630-0744. If you call and leave us a voice message, I'll be more than happy to get you on the podcasts. And like I said, we are eventually going to be playing those calls actually right on the podcast itself. We just haven't gotten to that part just yet, but we will. So you can hit me up on my Twitter as well if you have a question at Lapani Tech. The only rule I have, folks, if you're going to call the helpline, is I have one rule, and that is no bad language. It won't make it on the air if it does. Folks, I know it's a podcast. I know we can publish explicit content if we really wanted to, but we're not shock jocks here. This is a tech show, and we just don't need bad language on the show. That's all. So, first question we have is, how can I protect my computer after Windows ends Windows XP support? We did have a post on this, probably maybe 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, about the particular. Microsoft is going to extend their support on the product in the sense that you're going to be able to use the security products. You can use, you can use, Security Essentials. I'm sure AVG will still support it. I'm sure any of the antiviruses will still support it even after Microsoft starts putting out updates for it. But I would recommend, going ahead, because once the Windows update stops, okay, your system's just going to get picked apart. I would recommend either upgrading to Vista or upgrading to 7. If you really, really need that machine, if you have software that's not compatible and you're a business and you do really, really need that machine, I would go ahead and recommend disconnecting it from the internet and just using it as a standalone machine just to protect it. Because, the firewall is going to eventually get picked apart. You're not going to have updates. You're going to be vulnerable to security breaches and all that stuff. So I would strongly either recommend, if you do have to keep it on the internet, put a good antivirus on it, put a third-party firewall on it, and just keep it as safe as you can. Turn it off when you're not using it, things of that nature. But that's my suggestion. If you do need an XP machine for whatever you're doing, you could virtualize it and make snapshots of it. I think that's an idea as well that I've done with a couple customers as well, that I've actually go ahead and actually said, well, hey, we need XP, for this, that, and the other thing. I've actually either done them standalone or virtualized them and have snapshots of it, or even just, if you have it on a standalone machine, just have a good backup of it. That's all I can really recommend to you as far as that problem. Somebody asked me, why does my HBO Go buffer so much on my cable internet? I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there actually has been reports of Comcast actually going ahead and actually throttling Netflix users. It is very possible that they may be as well throttling HBO Go. We don't know it yet, but I can tell you this. I know on my internet, I always have problems with HBO Go, and I have a pretty big pipe coming in, and I still have problems with HBO Go buffering. It might be the device you're using. It might be HBO Go itself. It might be your internet service provider. It's very hard to track something like that down. My recommendation is to call your cable provider and let them know about the problem, and maybe they can help you out. That'd be the only suggestion I could really make for you. Will Microsoft stop supporting Windows Vista? Was another question I have. We get a lot of questions about. I think a lot of people are a little paranoid because of Windows XP coming to an end. I think people are paranoid about their machines not being supported anymore. They haven't officially announced a not support date yet. My guess would be it's probably going to be in 2017 sometime they're going to stop support. If you remember, XP was supposed to be not supported. It went into extended life support. My guess is they're probably going to support Vista until probably 2017. That would be my guess. I have no official information on that yet, but that would be my guess. Next question I asked, how can I install apps on my Android SD card? A lot of our listeners that do go to our website and do go to our follow us on our YouTube channel, we do have several videos up there about that. We do have several of them up there relating to how to do that. If you go to our YouTube channel, we do have instructional videos on that up there. But what you can do is there is settings in the Android device, depending on what version you're using, that will actually let you can actually point in the settings, to go ahead and allow that to occur. There are also some providers you do have to jailbreak your phone. I'm not sure if you have that particular model or not, but you might have to jailbreak the phone or root it. I'm not sure yet, but like I said, it depends on what version of Android app you have. We do have videos up on our site about that. What I would recommend, folks, is go actually, if you want to get me more information, I can actually help you a little bit more further with that if you'd like, to that particular person that sent in that thing, and I'll send you an email back as well. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the Technology Geek podcast. I want to thank everybody for listening, supporting the supporting the show, the donations, and as well as supporting the sponsors. They help us, keep up and running. Like I said, we are working quite hard to get the site back up where it was, getting our images over, getting all our old shows over. Doing all that, we are working very, very hard on that. You just have to bear with us a little bit. Like I said, we are moving over to the new server. The new server is doing very well. We have a record amount, by the way, of podcast downloads since we've been on the new server. I think that's because people aren't struggling with being throttled and aren't struggling with getting downloads and stuff because our old posting provider was kind of giving us a problem. But I want to thank everybody for listening, by the way, and thank you for this milestone, like I said, with this podcast and with this website. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much.